Hello everybody, it's Brian here, and today I'm going to take part in a thread. This one was started by Sam St. John, now known as Americana Sam, and the title is Thanksgiving Turkeys. So it's funny that I'm participating because Canadian Thanksgiving happened about 5 weeks ago, but the American Thanksgiving has yet to occur. But I thought the idea was pretty interesting. Now, a few months ago, I participated in a live stream with French Vinyl Addict, David Atkinson, and Ben Rankins, and part of that live stream was devoted to the topic of albums from artists we really like that are terrible. So I did show 3 records in that live stream that would fit the bill for today's video, but rather than repeat all those 3, I've chosen different ones with one exception. I kept one from that live stream, and if you want to go to the trouble of finding that live stream, you can find out what the other 2 are. Now, it is funny though, every time I look up an artist or an album that I adore, someone is going to give it a 1-star review, and vice versa. If I look up records that I hate, someone's going to love them. So it is a bit strange and also very subjective, of course, because people like different things. So all of these records do have proponents and fans, but for me, they just never work. Now, the record I kept from the live stream is the record I think about whenever someone says a terrible album from a really great band. It is the first thing that comes to my mind because it sort of could stand as an emblem for all cases where a band has made a terrible record. It's from a favorite band of mine. I love them. The only band that matters, The Clash. This is Cut the Crap from 1985. Let's be honest, this album stinks. Now, when I first heard of this record, it was way back in 1985 when a friend in university came into my room, or it was early 86, I don't know what month this came out, but he came into my room with this record, and I was immediately captivated by this cover. I was a huge Clash fan. I love London Calling. London Calling is always in my top 5 favorite records of all time. I think it is brilliant, which I've said many times. I love the early stuff. Combat Rock, maybe a little less so, and Sandinista, for all its weight, for all the amount of material on it, does have some really excellent moments. And when I saw this, I thought, are we getting the Clash from the early days, the more stripped down punk sound? Look at the fashion on here. We've got the leather jacket, we've got the haircut, sunglasses. This was an exciting cover to me. And then I heard the record and was essentially horrified by what I was hearing. It is a weird record. Now, to be fair, only half the Clash is really on this record. It's Joe Strummer and Paul Simonon. The other 2 were fired and replaced by these 3, in my opinion, no-name people. I don't know who they were. I still don't know who they are. But there they are sitting, pretending to be the Clash. So my opinion of this record has not changed in 40 years. I did go onto YouTube yesterday. I didn't want to put the record on. I just went onto YouTube and I sampled some of these tracks, and by and large, my opinion has not changed. They're still terrible, with a couple of exceptions. So I don't even know why I own this record, but I do. Here is the inside with this black and white photo that we just saw, and some stuff here. Now the labels are fine. Red and yellow. Now, having said all of that, there is one track that is worthy of attention, and that is the single, This Is England. This Is England. But in my opinion, you probably only really need This Is England on the single, and then you got yourself covered. But that track is so good, it should appear on any best of Clash album that comes out, or I don't think it ever has, but North and South possibly is okay. But beyond that, I'd say the album is pretty terrible. Now, another band that I absolutely adored since the first time I heard about them and that's the Stranglers. I just thought they were really terrific. They had that punk sound that had a little bit of keyboard in it, or sometimes a lot of keyboards in it. It sort of separated them from the mass of other punk bands that were around. And then they moved through some musical changes, and by the time they got to Oral Sculpture and Dreamtime, the 2 records before this, they had moved into a more accessible pop, kind of new wave sound, which I loved. I thought that was just, they did a really good job. And then this came out in 1990. I do love the album cover. The band members dressed up as various world leaders like Fidel Castro and Gaddafi and Margaret Thatcher. It's a pretty fun cover. There's the back. And this kind of killed my interest in the Stranglers for a long time. The opening track, Sweet Smell of Success, okay. They do a cover of 96 Tears. Never to Look Back, the last track is interesting because it has some really unique, interesting keyboard sounds. But beyond that, I just found this record a little dull, a little lacking in direction, maybe a little muddy. Weirdly produced by Roy Thomas Baker of Cars fame. And then, you know, I think they had a record that came out 2 years after this or so, which I did not even pay attention to. Probably still have never heard it. I have sort of come back to them in later years and sort of found out what they were doing, but this record I don't think will ever appeal to me. Weirdly, I was looking up this record and I came across someone's site who gave us 10 reasons why he thinks this is the best or a very good Stranglers record. I don't think I agree with them, but... and I did, again, sample some things the other day, and nothing has really grown on me on that record. Next is an artist that you could choose a number of records from, depending on your opinion. And that is Bob Dylan. This is Down in the Groove from 1988. Again, I do love this album cover. I think it's a very effective cover. The back is kind of interesting as well. Looks to be like a live show or sound check or something. I don't know what's going on there. And this record, if I were to say anything about it, I think I would say it seems unfinished to me. There's almost like and some tracks have like a demo quality to them. Yeah, I could be wrong in that. There's a lot of musicians on here. There's some cover versions. It's a weird collection. It almost seems like things that were found on the cutting room floor. Death Is Not the End is an excellent song. It's really well written. I don't really like the performance here. In my opinion, a better version of that is from Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds on Murder Ballads. You can hear that with guest vocals, guest vocals from Shane MacGowan, PJ Harvey, Kylie Minogue, I think, maybe, and one other person, I can't remember her name. But that is really good. The rest of this album in general just seems like there's something missing from it. It seems like they recorded everything in one take and just stopped. They didn't think if it needed anything else. They, okay, we're done. Let's press the record. It just seems like a work in progress that was never finished, if that makes any sense. So not one I've listened to many times. Just something very strange about it. Classic Red Columbia labels. So yeah, I wish I could remember where I got this from, but it's kind of a strange record. Next is from a band that I really quite liked in the early days. That is The Cars. This is Door to Door from 1987. I love the first two records. Heartbeat City, Panorama. Oh, what was the other one called? It's one I'm missing. I'll probably think of it later. I think we're all pretty good. You know, I think they were really solid. This is the second to last record before they reformed without Elliot Easton, I think, in 2011. So this one, 87. And if I don't know if you noticed, but this is an original Canadian copy that's still sealed because one of my friends had this record and I heard it so many times, and I can't remember if I bought this around the same time, but I kept hearing it and I decided that I wasn't even going to bother opening this. Now, the track You Are the Girl is fine. It was a single. But all in all, something about the sound of this record that really irritates me. I have a hard time listening to it. In fact, as I do with other records, I went to YouTube and I listened to some tracks just to see if I was mistaken. And again, there's something about the production or the sound that really bothers me. Produced by Rick Ocasek, by the way. None of the songs seem memorable to me. It's like they lost their direction. I think some of these songs were actually quite old that they'd never recorded, and then they went back and recorded them. But I don't know. It's kind of a miss. Disappointing. Too bad, really, because they had something going there, and then even the album cover, I think, is just ugly. It's an ugly album cover. Now, the next one will be possibly the biggest surprise of this entire video because I've chosen someone who is an absolute favorite of mine, has been for a long time. In fact, you may know if you've watched this channel that I have a ongoing series that's up to part 11, I think, and that is John Cale. So why am I talking about a John Cale turkey? Well, because it is a turkey. This is Caribbean Sunset from 1984. One of only two John Cale records never to have been released on compact disc. The other is a live record called John Cale Comes Alive. It used to irritate me that this wasn't on CD. I don't really care anymore. Came out in 1984. Brian Eno appears on here and on the AMS pitch changer. He couldn't save the record. It's almost like John Cale tried to make a pop record, but didn't know what he's doing. And to be fair, that makes sense. He didn't really write pop music. He wrote rock music, avant-garde music. And to write pop music was a bit of a stretch for him, and it comes off across as flat and badly produced. There's just something about every song that is irritating. Now, the title track, Caribbean Sunset, would be a good song if it were redone in a kind of traditional John Cale piano ballad. It might be okay. In fact, I think all of these songs could benefit from a re-recording. I don't think he's performed these live. I could be wrong. Well, no, I think he has, but not recently anyway. The last track, Villa Albani, could be a good track. Possibly if they got rid of some of the production, but I mean, there's just weird lyrics. He sings, and the tom goes tom, and the tom goes tom tom, and the gun goes gun, and the gun goes gun gun, and the bomb goes bomb, and the bomb goes bomb bomb, things like that. But when I first heard about this record, I mean, you've got a track called Model Beirut Recital. I thought that's an interesting track. Is it about Beirut? No. Experiment number 1, Praetorian, Where There's a Will, The Hunt. Interesting song titles, but... And he has some people he's worked with before, but it's just a really odd record. There's the Caribbean Sunset there, and he's on a beach perhaps in a sweatshirt on the sand there. Even John Cale says he doesn't like this record. I always think he should just maybe reinterpret some of these songs and see where it leads. Just strip it down, just put him in the studio with a piano or a guitar and see what happens, but kind of a failure. Now, I will do a longer discussion of this record when I get to it in the long-standing John Cale series. I'm going to wrap this up with a compact disc. This is, again, from one of my favorite artists of all time. That's Billy Bragg. Well, this is credited to Billy Bragg and the Blokes. This is England Half English. Now, I have pretty much everything Billy Bragg has released on vinyl, even some of the harder to find things. This was released on vinyl, I don't think in Canada, though. Came out in 2002. If I did find a copy for a reasonable price, I would buy it just to complete my collection, but I'm not going to order it from Discogs at extortionate prices. As with many Billy Bragg albums, it's hard to fault his political view, although in some cases I have. I think sometimes he's a bit naive, but the message here is not a bad message at all. It's just the way it's produced and the way it sounds is really strange to me. It opens with Saint Monday, which is a fine song, to be honest. Jane Allen, okay. But there are some weird songs that just don't quite work for me. England Half English, the title track. Again, the message is probably fine. I find the way it's produced to be very strange. He has... Parts of this record have kind of a reggae sound or a world sound to it, which I don't think works. Like Baby Farouk would be my nomination for the worst Billy Bragg song, even worse than those a cappella tracks I don't like. Take Down the Union Jack actually sounds like a classic Billy Bragg protest song from way back when. It's fine. Another Kind of Judy, I just don't, oh my God. There's so many tracks here that just fail in my opinion. He does have a quote from George Orwell here, and George Orwell is one of my favorite writers, so that's nice to see. But kind of a miss. So I don't know what was going on there. Anyway, thanks for watching. I'm interested in seeing your turkeys. I've watched maybe only one other video on this topic, but anyway, thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next video.